Hey there, my name is Joe Braun and I'm the founder of Solume. If you're on an HOA or condo board in Colorado, there's something you may or may not know. Your state doesn't really have particularly strong laws about reserve studies or long-range capital planning. And at first glance, that might seem like good news, right? Less regulation, more flexibility. But here's the reality. Weak laws don't necessarily protect you from expensive mistakes. So in this video, we're gonna break down what that really means. You'll learn why so many Colorado communities underestimate long-term maintenance, what happens when condos and HOA boards ignore the warning signs, and how reserve studies or capital reserve planning can help prevent those six-figure surprises down the road. By the end, you'll understand how to think about your community's financial future and why getting ahead of these problems now is probably one of the smartest decisions a board can make. Whether you're in Denver or Colorado Springs or somewhere deep in the mountains, every community faces the same truth. Things wear out. Roofs leak, asphalt cracks, and foundations shift. Everyone's aware of the obvious threats, right? Like fires, hail, flooding, but few talk about the slow-moving problems caused by Colorado's dramatic temperature shifts, those extreme swings that you experience. The constant freeze and thaw can quietly wreak havoc on foundations over time. Cracks appear, concrete shifts, and what starts as a subtle tilt can become a multi-million-dollar problem if issues are ignored. Everyone knows the Ken Carl area struggles with foundation movement, right? Real estate agents even warn buyers about it. But how many people stop to think about the shared infrastructure, the roads, the clubhouses, the retaining walls, the things the community owns together? That same shifting ground doesn't just affect individual homes, it can quietly destroy clubhouses or rec centers, pool decks, and parking lots if nobody's paying attention to them. Too many boards think, we're fine, we're not dealing with hurricanes or earthquakes or coastal erosion. But Colorado has its own version of natural wear and tear, ground movement, freezing thaw cycles, wildfire risk, hailstorms, and insurance costs. Those are major factors too. Every one of those creates financial pressure. And when a board doesn't have a reserve study or a long-term plan, that pressure builds silently until it explodes with one word: assessment, or two words, a special assessment. Because here's what happens. A few small repairs get delayed, maybe a fence needs replacing or a roof patch is postponed. Over time, those small deferrals add up. The reserve balance starts to dip and eventually something major breaks, a roof, a building's HVAC system, or a parking structure. And when that happens, the cost isn't gradual, it's immediate and overwhelming. Homeowners are suddenly faced with a large special assessment they never saw coming, and many are left wondering how the problem grew so big without anybody noticing. And that's a fair question. How did they not see this coming? We'll come back to that later in this video. If you've ever had to deliver that type of news to your community, you know how painful it is. At that point, it's not a budget line item, it's real families scrambling to find thousands of dollars they didn't plan for. Here's the truth. You either plan for it slowly now or you pay for it painfully later. There is no free lunch. Reserve studies aren't just documents, they're forecasts. They show what's aging, when it needs replacement, and what it will cost. Without the data, your board is driving blind. Colorado's Common Interest Ownership Act, the CCIOA, I don't know how you say that fast, but it recommends that HOAs maintain adequate reserves, but what does that actually mean? Adequate reserves are simply funds set aside to repair or replace common elements, right? Things like roofs, parking decks, clubhouses or rec centers, sidewalks, as they age. Some boards maintain these reserves through informal spreadsheets or rough annual estimates, while others conduct a formal reserve study, which is a professional evaluation of the community's assets, their lifespan, and the projected replacement costs. A formal reserve study offers more precision, but Colorado doesn't require one. There's no set timeline or enforcement mechanism, which leaves boards free to choose their own approach. That means a community can do its own capital study if it has the expertise, or it can outsource the process to a professional engineer or a reserve analyst. The problem is when boards skip this process altogether, entirely. They lose sight of the financial roadmap, and that's how financial surprises happen. Compare that to states like Florida, where the Surfside condo collapse changed everything. Now, Florida boards are legally required to complete reserve studies at least every 10 years, with an annual review included as part of the budget process, and renew or update their studies every 3 years to fully fund structural components. I know that's a lot, there's a mouthful there, but trust me, they have very strict laws. California, after years of wildfires and earthquakes, they mandate regular inspections and financial planning. Same thing, very strict laws around this. Colorado isn't there yet, but the physical realities are no less demanding. In Colorado, the biggest enemy isn't saltwater or hurricanes, it's the weather. Extreme shifts over years cause major problems. Freeze-thaw cycles crack concrete like crazy, right? Expansive soil pushes foundations out of alignment. Insurance premiums climb as hailstorms and fires become more frequent. Insurance premiums are going up everywhere, but in some of these more prone states, they're going up exponentially higher. And inflation makes every future project more expensive than the last. That's why a reserve study or a capital plan shouldn't be ignored. It's how you keep your footing. But simply having one is only part of the equation. You need a system for managing it. We'll talk about our HOA software in a moment. You may have heard of the Soaring Eagles Townhomes in Colorado Springs. You know that debacle? In 2024, residents of this community were hit with a special assessment of more than $20,000 per household after a hailstorm damaged the property's roof and siding. The HOA's insurance deductible had increased dramatically, and without sufficient reserve funds to cover it, the board passed the cost directly on to the homeowners. Many residents said that they were blindsided, receiving little communication until just the bill arrived. Some even faced the risk of losing their homes. News outlets covered the story across the state, not because of the storm itself, but because of what it revealed: a lack of long-term financial planning and reserves to absorb the unexpected. At first glance, this just might sound like an insurance problem, right? Not a reserve planning one. But the issue is deeper. The HOA didn't have enough reserve funding to cover its soaring deductible. A well-funded reserve allows communities to handle big deductibles, urgent repairs, or sudden costs without dropping five-figure bills on homeowners. The situation showed exactly why reserve planning matters. It's the financial cushion that keeps predictable wear and unpredictable events from becoming full-blown crises. The headlines weren't just a story about bad weather, they were about what happens when a community doesn't have the financial cushion it needs to weather the storm. Pun intended. Or imagine a pool deck that cracks every spring as the ground swells and settles again. It's easy to patch the surface, right? But the movement below keeps growing. Without a reserve plan, the board can't anticipate when that deck will need a full rebuild and the community gets hit with, a $200,000 surprise. So what should Colorado boards be doing? Start by commissioning a professional reserve study, even though it's not legally required. Again, it's just smart to have one. That gives you a baseline understanding of your community's physical assets and how long they'll last. A professional reserve study typically starts with a site visit by an engineer or a reserve analyst who examines everything the community owns: clubhouses, exterior windows, parks, pools, sidewalks, parking lots, even HVAC systems. They assess the current condition of each asset and estimate how long before it will need repair or replacement. Then they project those costs into the future, creating a timeline that helps the board understand when money will be needed and how much to save each year to to stay prepared. From there, boards or property managers need to track it yearly and update it every few years because inflation and weather and insurance, they don't stand still, and neither should your data. It has to respond to real life circumstances, to what's really going on in your community, and it has to be looked at and managed yearly. Right now, many communities are stuck trying to manage all of this in PDFs or spreadsheets or outdated systems that don't give them a clear picture of what's coming next. Most communities, they just want to feel secure about their financial future, to know that upcoming expenses won't blindside them or their homeowners. What they really want is predictability, a sense of control, and the confidence that when something breaks, they'll have the funds ready without scrambling. This is where Solume can help. Our software is the bridge between uncertainty and control. A simple tool that gives boards control over their long-term financial plan. Our reserve study feature lets you track components, forecast future costs, and visualize how different funding strategies affect long-term stability. It turns the reserve study from a static PDF into a living plan that you can actually use. At the end of the day, whether you're in Colorado, California, Florida, or some other state, the principle is the same. Deferred maintenance always costs more. Smart boards don't avoid expenses, they anticipate them, or at least to the best of their ability. So if you're on a board in Colorado, don't wait for a crisis or for the legislature to tell you what to do. Commission your reserve study, keep it up to date with Solume, and use it to plan ahead. Because the only thing more expensive than maintenance is neglect. If this video helped you understand Colorado's HOA and condo challenges a little better, hit that like and subscribe button. It helps us keep creating more educational content like this. And drop a comment if there's another state you'd like us to cover next. And if you're on a board or a property management team and want to see how our software can give you control over your long-term financial plan, is it a crazy idea to spend 15 minutes seeing how it works? Book a quick call. No pressure, just a look at what's possible. Visit Solume.com to book an appointment and we'll walk you right through all of this.